Welcome to Five or Flop, a podcast for the best and worst historical fiction has to offer. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm Grace, and each week we'll be reading a different historical fiction book to see if they're a five or a flop.
Our theme for season 3 is back to school, which means children in YA. And Grace, we finally hit the last episode of this mammoth season.
It is the season finale. I cannot believe we have made it. And just for all of our listeners who maybe aren't following along doing the math, we have hit 40 books.
This is what pushed me over my 100-book goal for 2024. I actually had to lower my goal back to 75 because I don't think I will be able to hit 100 without all these children's books.
Yeah, we had most of our episodes were individual books. We had one episode where we read two, our World War II episode. Mm-hmm. But even just taking into account Dear America, that's 6 books. Josefina, that's 6 books. Royal Diaries, that's 6 books, including the 3 for today. Magic Treehouse, 8 books. Or 9 books if you're like me and you read one of the wrong ones by accident.
Exactly. Or more for Dear America if you're like me and have been inspired to reread and rank the entire series.
Oh my gosh. I am so excited when you're finally done with that and we can just have an episode about all of our rankings.
We won't even do it like a bonus episode. It'll just be in the middle of an unrelated season.
Yeah, and the season will probably be like, I don't know, like Cold War themed. But
something
we're like, anyway,
crazy.
It's the Dear America episode.
But like Grace mentioned, but I also talked over a little bit, so if you didn't hear it properly, that's on me. This is part 2 of our Royal Diaries episode. So we are reading Cleopatra, Anastasia, and Marie Antoinette, which were my picks, and I think probably the 3 heaviest hitters. Like most popular ones of the season of the series?
Maybe. I will say, shockingly, I only read one of these as a child.
Really?
Yeah. I read Anastasia, obviously.
Of course.
And I really can't say if it was because I ignored Marie Antoinette and Cleopatra in the library or if they just didn't have them.
I feel like it might have been that. I just feel like those have the 2 most enticing covers. Like, those are the covers I remember from being a child.
Yeah. Like, I'm not really sure what would have enticed me as a child to pick up Eleanor of Aquitaine, which I did. Because as a child, I certainly knew who Cleopatra was. And I don't think I knew who Eleanor of Aquitaine was.
I would have been shocked if you knew who that was before picking up the book. Like, I did not realize who that was before I picked up the book.
And we, like most people were loyal to the branch of the library that was by our house. We weren't shopping around to all the other locations. No. So I'm sure they had it somewhere in the library system because we had a quite good one. Shout out to Chesterfield County. But yeah, so I was very happy so actually, let me clarify. I am revisiting all of these books, but Cleopatra and Marie Antoinette I read for the first time 2 or 3 years ago as an adult.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. But
okay, yeah. Well, I'm excited about these ones. But before we get into that, I just got back from Rio.
You have a lot to talk about.
I have a lot to talk about. Oh my God. Should I talk about... Okay, well, it's going to sound crazy because this was like the best trip of my life and it was amazing. And Brazil is a beautiful country and I wish I was still back there. Going back to work was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life this week. Just like trying to get back in the mindset of like not being on vacation, not being in 95 degrees, being in DC cold. Yeah, coming back to DC was a whole other thing this week. But what's funny is that I'm actually going to talk about the 2 worst parts of my trip because I think they're really funny.
I was going to say, Brazil must be absolutely fabulous for you to talk so highly of it because the stuff that happened to you on this trip was like horrifying.
It's just like the worst. Okay, so the first, and that's why I'm like, I can't go through every detail about what I loved about the trip because we would be here all day. So I just have to hit you with the 2 bad things, which you already know about. So I have to hit the audience. So we stayed in an Airbnb, which I don't prefer Airbnbs. And
Airbnbs are absolutely canceled.
And I will not be staying in one again. But it had this teeny tiny shower, right? And it had like glass shower doors. Now, usually you would be thinking, tempered shower doors, they're not going to shatter on you and cut you with a million pieces of glass. But that is indeed what happened to me while I was getting out of the shower. And we looked at it. We looked into it once I was done. I did not slam the door. The track was busted, one of the wheels on it. So it like forced it and twisted it and the whole thing
and
shattered.
It warped the glass.
Basically, and caused it all to shatter. And it was horrifying. And thank God Santiago was there because I screamed from him. He told me, he's like, I've heard you use a tone of voice that I have never heard you use before. Just because like I completely went into like shock. It felt like it was horrifying. Thank God I was not more severely injured because in hindsight, that could have been really, really dangerous. So that's really good. It was mostly just scraped up. And then like the owners came and they like swept it up and there was still glass everywhere the entire trip. You could still see spots of my blood on like the shower walls until like the next few times we showered and it washed away. Pretty horrifying. They were going to make me pay for it. And I, of course, in my state of shock was like, I offered and I was like, I'll pay for any damages because like when you're in that state, you're not thinking clearly.
And we were at home texting you like not in a state of shock because we weren't there.
And we were like,
do not pay for that.
And of course, like you're just like in shock. But then I talked to Airbnb support and he was supposed to put in a ticket. And then as long as I had like semi evidence it wasn't on me, the insurance was going to pay for it. And then he just never even put in the ticket for it. So I don't really know the conclusion to that, but I think they paid for it. Like the company.
So luckily, this is not a case of the Airbnb policy shenanigans fucking you over because that is frequently what happens.
Yes.
So it could have been way worse, but I'm very glad that you're okay.
I am too. And then the next worst part of my trip was fucking American Airlines flying home. All of their kiosks were broken. So instead of just like printing out the bag tags, dropping your bag, every single person was in line for like 3 customer service people.
Aww.
So that took forever. Santiago was on a different flight. He flew to Colombia. So I was like getting stressed. And he was like, you'll make it. It's fine. Yeah, because he's not the one in the line, of course. And he was right. I did in fact make it, but only when I was in the passport control line, which was another massive line because again, there was not enough people working because this was like an 11 p.m. flight. It was a weird time, but everything had gotten so backed up because of American Airlines that when I was in line, I got the notification that like my flight was boarding and I saw some other people who I had spoken to before who were on my flight, like push through to the front to priority. So I did the same. And I was talking to 2 girls because I had to wait like a minute and they were like, yeah, we heard it's like a kilometer to the gate from here through the airport. I'm like, that can't be true. It was at the other end of every single shop in the entire airport. I had to run through every single store. And then thank God some other girls on my flight, again, the ones I had speaking to, flagged down one of the like little golf cart things. And they were like, luckily one of them spoke Portuguese and she was like, please, please, please drive us to the gate. So I barely made it to my gate on time. And then like an hour into my flight, came down with food poisoning. And I've been dealing with that.
Like a 10-hour flight.
Yeah. And I've been dealing with that pretty much all week too. Like that was not just a flight thing.
Also a 10-hour flight to New York with a 3-hour layover.
Yeah. And then I get there. Oh my God, I forgot about that part. I flew into JFK. I had American Airlines. The only option they gave me was to fly out of LaGuardia. So I asked at American Airlines, I'm like, is there a shuttle? How do I get there? They're like, you have to take a cab. $65 at 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Horrific. And then I had to just sit in the airport for like 4 hours. But the trip was incredible. So it's really funny to highlight the 2 worst things that happened to me because everything else was just like the absolute best experience of my entire life.
Well, I'm very glad you had fun and I'm glad you're home safe and I'm sorry that you had food poisoning
and
that you got cut by the shower.
Me too. But then I was so like both of us the entire week were so paranoid that we're like, is there glass like under our skin? Like, ugh. Horrifying experience for me personally, but amazing trip. Like even with all that bad shit, I'm like I would go back in a heartbeat, and I do hope to go back to Rio.
Wonderful.
So yes, that was my trip in summary. If any of you follow my personal Instagram, which probably every single listener of this podcast except for probably your mom does,
I was gonna say,
you will see pictures.
And they were beautiful pictures. You should be a travel influencer. You should have a second podcast.
I would love to be a travel influencer, and I'm not even joking. I think that would be so fun. But then it's like, you basically have to be traveling every single week of the year. And like, what am I supposed to do? Leave Flynn? Flynn's already mad and emotionally distant at me for leaving her this week.
You just have to take really expensive like boat trips to get everywhere where you can bring your dog.
Yeah, that's so true. We're actually looking to go for a cruise over Thanksgiving, but you'll have to wait for probably season 4 of the podcast to hear about that.
Yeah, so true. I'm trying to do my math. Over Thanksgiving, yeah, I guess we'll be on season 4 then. I was maybe season 5.
And then I'll be talking about our Thanksgiving cruise like 2 or 3 months after Thanksgiving.
In January of next year. Yeah.
So you have to wait till January of next year to hear about that.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have coming up?
Well, when you were in Rio...
Or, excuse me, what did you have?
I was in New York for the weekend, and I've kind of figured out I have been to New York a lot of times.
Twice with me.
Twice with you. It's just not that hard to get there from the mid-Atlantic.
No,
so
it's not.
It's a frequent destination, especially if, like me, you are a lover of a Broadway show.
Of course.
So that is why I was there. I went to go see Gypsy with my good friend Kate. Shout out, Kate.
Famously, Everything's Coming Up Kurt.
Exactly. With Audra McDonald and Danny Burstein. It was absolutely fabulous. And also, it was just really good to see a show and an environment like that. Like, the audience was really strong. Mm-hmm. There were 2 applauses during just the overture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So everyone was ready to go.
Good.
Fabulous show. Amazing show.
Uh-huh.
We made a brief pit stop into the Morgan Library where you and I went.
Love.
Because they had a whole new exhibit. It was worth going again, even though you do have to pay to get in there.
As people who live in DC, our friend group, I would say pretty much everyone we know, tends to be much more hesitant to pay to go for a museum because we have such high quality free ones here.
Exactly.
So for Grace to say that like means a lot.
Yeah. And additionally to that, when I was in my working at the Jewish Museum era, mm-hmm. I had a like museum employee ID.
Uh-huh.
So for a handful of our museums here that are really good but paid, like Phillips Collection, National Museum of Women in the Arts, I could flash my ID and they would let me in for free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not anymore. Unfortunately, it expired. I did use it a few months after I was no longer working there because it wasn't expired yet.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely worth it. We went to also the new gallery the next day, which has a lot of Klimt. They have Portrait of Adele Blockbauer.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So super worth it. But yeah, I figured out, since I've done so much New York, we went on that really long trip recently.
Yeah.
Where we were there forever. And by the last day, when it was like 95 degrees and we were, eating lunch in a restaurant with no air conditioning, we were ready to leave.
But we got really great facials while we were there.
So. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Really great. And not that expensive.
Yeah.
So an overnight with like 1 show, 1 museum, 2 museums maybe, it was great for me.
Yeah.
So, and also Kate went to college for a year or a semester in New York. So she knows how to ride the bus. So we took the bus.
Okay. Even better. That's what's great about traveling with Santiago, because he's always like, I'll just figure out how to use the bus and figure out how we're going to do it. But I do love, when you do go for like 3 days or more, it's always worth it to get like the unlimited week-long subway thing.
If you're there for like 1 day, you can take the bus, or you can just plan to stay near everything you want to do and walk and take a cab to and from the train station or the airport.
You can go on an hour-and-a-half trek like we did when we saw About Cinderella.
Well, we just decided to do that because we're so quirky.
Exactly. We're just not like other girls.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, since you were doing all that flying, you have some reports to give on some books that you read on the plane.
I do. And it's so funny because I didn't even have them marked in my currently reading section. But I'm going to jump in because it's the last episode of the season. I'm going to give like a pretty big rundown. So unfortunately, the airplane reading curse has struck again. And it struck He Who Drowned the World, the sequel to She Who Became the Sun.
Womp womp.
And it's just like, I guess because it was the first one, and I did not have the same issue as Grace, that there were just so many named characters. But trying to jump into the sequel when I had not read the first one, it's been a while since I read that.
I was going to say, I think maybe it wouldn't be a problem if you had picked it up immediately after, but it's been several months.
God, it was just like, I do not want to relearn how, because it throws you right in, which I think is great for a sequel to do. I don't want like a full recap. But I do not want to relearn who every single person is. And also, this was on me. Grace did teach me afterwards how to change the font size on my iPad. The font was so small.
Sometimes you really have to use your technical wizard prowess because some of that it needs to change.
And I just didn't even like look into how to do it. Yeah. So it was just awful. And I think I made it like maybe not even 20 pages. And I'm like, I'm not doing this.
I did feel selfishly, and this is bad of me because I don't want to bring, despair down upon Shelley Parker Chan, who seems like a lovely person. When you texted and you were like, I can't finish this because there are too many characters, I felt so vindicated.
Grace won.
I know. It was like I won the war.
Grace won that day.
All right. But I am kind of sad that I'm not going to get the full recap of what happens. Maybe but it's based on history, so I guess we know.
Maybe I'll go back to it, like if I get if I get it from the library as like a hardback or something, but just not right now. But I also, while I was on the plane, successfully enjoyed 2 Grace recommendations, which I think we talked about both, and I'll name them in a second. But it's kind of crazy because I typically don't like recommendations from you.
We know what each other's taste is, mostly through doing the podcast, but most importantly, we know where it differs.
Yes, and when you tweeted about that the other day, I probably wasn't at me, but I'm like, no, this is definitely about how we know we don't enjoy each other's recommendations half the time.
No, it wasn't about you, but it applies.
It's just like, and it's not a bad thing, like, I don't, whatever, not everything is for everyone, but I've definitely learned more about your taste from the pod.
Yeah. And I think sorry, just to say one more thing. I think also critically, like, we respect each other's taste.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're like, I don't like this Emily Henry book, I'm not offended. I'm like, I understand why, I just disagree with you, and vice versa. Like, we understand where each other is coming from.
Yeah, I don't think there's been an instance where I'm like, you're just completely wrong on this. But even, like, All the Light We Cannot See, I'm like, that was a huge 5 for me, but, like, I understand why it wasn't for you.
Yeah, so. And I understood when you also said that Pachinko had too many characters, even though I was like, I grumbled a little, and then I was like, okay, fine, I get it.
Pachinko, yeah, and maybe I feel like I would have that experience with the show too, but we'll never know since it's Apple TV. So we will quite possibly never know there.
Boo, Apple TV.
Okay. The 2 Grace recommendations I did really like was the first I did that, I think it might have been, it was either last week or the week before you talked about it, Thinking Inside the Box, the book about crossword puzzles, which is phenomenal because I love crossword puzzles. So I really enjoyed that. I did it as an audiobook. It was the author narrating, which I always enjoy, especially for like more of a memoir type. Mm-hmm. Really good. That book is very lowly rated on StoryGraph.
I know. So I bought it from a used bookstore for really, really cheap. Mm-hmm. And then I saw later that it had really bad reviews. And I was like, oh, I'm a little worried about this, but I already owned it and I wanted to read it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just dive in. It was good. It was cute.
I thought it was so well structured for like the type of book it was too.
The only thing I can think is maybe people went in expecting a straight memoir and it was more of a history than a memoir.
Yeah, I don't know.
But frankly, a memoir about someone who just like does crossword puzzles and that's it does not seem interesting.
Boring to me personally.
Yeah.
The other Grace recommendation I read was The Still Point, which we definitely have talked about. I don't know if we've talked about it on the pod, but it was about
I don't think so.
It was very like, it literally followed dance moms, but like the girls were in high school. Not like the people on the show, but like mothers of dancers who were in high school.
The author of that book is Tammy Greenwood, who I'd never heard of before. Yeah. But the reason that I picked that book up in the first place, despite having no like experience or background with her, was because it was pitched as Dance Moms meets Little Fires Everywhere. And I thought, oh, that sounds like it could really work. And it did.
It did.
It was fab.
And if you put ballerinas on a cover, 9 times out of 10, I will read the book. So I'm very biased.
It's lucky that it worked out because it could have been really bad.
Yeah, it could have been a really bad book. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. It was a little, it wasn't short, but it felt quick reading.
Yeah, it wasn't too soapy either, even though it could have been very easily.
Yeah, no, but I liked it. There were a lot of characters in that, but I thought they all worked. I thought they were fun. But what I'm reading currently is The Hobbit.
A big
Shout
one.
out data scientist Ashley, which is kind of crazy because I am not a fantasy person at all.
Neither of us are.
But Santiago and I did just watch the movies. He had seen them all before. We haven't watched The Hobbit yet, but Ashley actually told me to start with that book as opposed to the others. But I do have the others. I ordered them all off Thrift Books. You can see them on my bookshelf.
I see.
It's like, it's definitely something I would see as like when I eventually have kids, like I would like to read this to them, you know, like my mom read Harry Potter to me and my sister. I'm like, it reads like one of those to me. Mm-hmm. And like, it's not like, I don't know. I felt this way about the movies too. Like some parts of the movies I really liked, some I didn't. But it makes me think of you because there are so many italic song lyrics in there. Like these dwarves are always singing. And every single time I skip over it, I think of you.
Well, you're going to have to figure out the tune of those songs if you're going to sing them to your kids.
Exactly. All I remember is whenever, like, my grandma would watch us for the night, she would, like, fill in reading a chapter of Harry Potter to my sister. And I was too young, so I just kind of listened. I didn't really follow the stories at the time. But I just remember my grandma trying to pronounce all the spell names and, like, Hermione and, like, all of this. And she just, like, had no idea. My sister would get so frustrated. It was really funny.
That's a challenge.
What are you reading now that I've been on a tangent?
Well, I just finished reading The God of the Woods.
Okay, which you mentioned to me.
Yes. And this is a book that was on so many Best of 2024, top new books. Last year, it got a lot of acclaim. And frankly, those books, I don't always end up reading a ton of them. Not because I don't think they're good or I don't want to. It's just kind of how it shakes out. I have a lot of stuff that I want to get to. Yeah. And my time is money, especially now that we have the pod. Not that we're making money from the pod, but so
we're losing money on the pod, more likely.
Indeed we are. But in a few weeks, I'm going to the Savannah Book Festival with my mom. We've talked about that before. We go every year. And there are a few books that have been on my list that I've wanted to read that the authors are going to be there. And one of them was this.
Are there any historical fiction ones? Because you need to network with those authors. Because I just saw...
We need to get them on the pod.
I just saw a friend of the pod, Ruta Sepetty's, post something about how she, like, zoomed into, like, someone's classroom to, like, speak to his writing students after she, like, met him at a conference.
Okay.
So you need to do that.
I'll do my work. Well, last year on the plane over, I sat next to an author, so sometimes it works.
You have to try. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue with what you were saying.
Anyway, so I wanted to read this book, and I texted my mom, and I said, it's really close, because she's read it, and she said it was really good. Mm-hmm. And I said, it's going to be down to the wire if I can get it off hold from the library in time. So she bought it for me, which is very nice. Thank you, Mom. And it was really fantastic. Good. It's interesting because the description of it makes it sound like a thriller. The plot of it is, 15 years ago, this boy went missing from this summer camp. Now it's much later, and another child has gone missing, and it's his sister.
Oh, so I want to read that.
Yeah, but really it's a character study of all of the people involved. Like, you're moving backwards and forwards through time. Yeah. You have perspectives from all of these different... You have the camp counselor, you have the mother, you have the young female detective who's working on the case. You have all of these perspectives, and it was really, really good. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to get it from the library for a while. So if you want to read it, put it on hold now.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Or illegally download a copy.
But don't tell anyone that.
Okay, so as you can tell, we are now 21 minutes into recording, so Grace and I clearly have not seen a lot of each other recently.
No.
Which is why we've been yapping, but we do need to get to these books.
Well, also, normally not to tell you how the secret sauce is made, but normally we record 2 episodes in one sitting. But today, because it's the finale, we're only recording this one.
And also, we're going grocery shopping at BJ's after this. So.
But because we're only doing one episode, I think we're like, we can take our time.
Exactly.
Since we're no longer in the pod studio and we're using our own mics in the comfort of our own home, we don't have a 2-hour time limit. Exactly. We can do whatever we want.
Listen, our life is... I love the pod studio. I felt so fancy and official. This is so easy. This is so convenient.
And the pod studio will always be there for us. They're not going to tear it out. We can go back.
Whenever we have a guest host, which I'm hoping next season to have guest hosts, yeah, we'll go back.
The world is our pod studio is the way that I see it now.
All right. Should I get into these synopses?
Yes. Well, should we remind everyone what books we're doing since it's been 20 minutes since we said?
I was going to repeat the name before I said each synopsis. I did not have the same issue as you did last week where they just cut off mid-sentence.
That's so weird then. Why do they only do it for, like, those 2?
I pulled 2 of them from Storygraph, and then the Marie Antoinette one on Storygraph was, like, 5 paragraphs long. So I pulled that from somewhere else. But anyways, Cleopatra, daughter of the Nile. While her father is in hiding after attempts on his life, 12-year-old Cleopatra records in her diary how she fears for her own safety and hopes to survive to become Queen of Egypt someday.
Yeah.
Anastasia, the Last Grand Duchess. Award-winning author Carolyn Meyer introduces readers to the unforgettable Anastasia Romanoff. She did not introduce me to Anastasia Romanoff.
No, we knew about her.
Whose idyllic life is forever changed with the coming of World War I.
I would not say specifically that it was World War I that changed Anastasia's life.
You can't really... I feel like when this came out, you still couldn't really talk. You had to be real careful about Russia stuff.
Okay, fine, I guess so.
That's like Anastasia, the animated movie, had to just make it about Rasputin, basically, as the villain, because they couldn't talk about the Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
But then when the stage performance came out, they changed it.
It was about the Russian Revolution.
Yeah. And Marie Antoinette, Princess of Versailles. In 1769, 13-year-old Maria Antonia Josepha Joanna, daughter of Empress Maria Theresa, begins a journal chronicling her life at the Austrian court and her preparations for her future role as Queen of France.
Well, there you go.
So I think all of those are nice and succinct. I liked those.
Since we're segueing into the author bios now, let me just say I appreciate how Carolyn Meyer is the only one who got her name in here and also described herself as award-winning.
Yeah, I love that for her. For the author bio, we're actually going to be skipping 2 of the authors because Christina Gregory wrote Cleopatra and Catherine Lasky wrote Marie Antoinette, and both of those are both other Royal Diaries and Dear America authors we have talked about.
Like we said, they have their stable of authors that they just return to, and they say, hey, we need another book. Can you do Marie Antoinette?
Exactly. But Carolyn Meyer has written a number of other young adult and children's historical fiction, including at least one other book about Anastasia and her sisters.
Oh, okay.
I believe that one, based on the cover, it looks more YA. A lot of her books look more YA. For Royal Diaries, she also wrote Isabel, Jewel of Castilla, and Christina the Girl King. I think I've definitely read Isabel. I don't think I've read Christina.
Isabel is a really good one. Christina is interesting. It's one of the ones that's kind of boring.
Okay.
However, it is interesting because in real life, a lot of people historically think that she was a lesbian.
Oh.
And I'm sure that she wasn't allowed to just like make her a lesbian in the book, or maybe she didn't want to. I don't know. But it's kind of the same thing that we'll talk about with Cleopatra, where she has this romance with this much older man in real life. So you have to be very delicate with it in your children's book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she has to kind of intimate in weird ways that she's like, Christina has this like girlfriend who she's very close with.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't really do more than that. So it's interesting.
Interesting. Okay. I think Isabel was like almost on our list of ones we picked.
Yeah.
It was a contender for sure for the season.
Well, and also famously, Isabella of Castile, mother of Catherine of Aragon, my favorite wife of Henry VIII. So I do love her.
Interestingly about Carolyn Mayer, so she has a Young Royal series, which seems to also be like historical fiction about real life royals, but for young adult audiences.
Oh, so like
a slightly more mature version of Royal Diaries.
Okay. So I guess when Scholastic called and said, hey, we're doing this Royal Diaries thing, she was like, jackpot.
Exactly. Or vice versa. She did this and she's like, I can make this better by addressing the issue of not interesting things happen to them as children.
Now that I have all this research, I can write more books with it. Like how Elizabeth Ween probably felt when she did all that research on planes and was like, I could get probably 20 books about this.
Exactly. So we've definitely read other books by these authors. The Cleopatra one is one of the ones that has like a short film.
Oh,
I think I need
HBO.
to. Yeah, we can either get it on HBO or I can try and renew my hold at the library. I'll double check HBO because I think that hold expired when I was in Rio. The library had been closed for a few days before we went because of the snow, so like it just never was able to pick it up. But quick disclaimer: our judgments come based on the book and characters within them, rather than any real historical figures they may have been based on, which of course is the
and
case
by
here.
May have we mean based on.
Yes, exactly. And also spoilers ahead, which I mean. These are real life people. You can just kind of Google this information about them.
If you don't know that Marie Antoinette got her head chopped off, it's not our fault for telling you.
Okay, I think where I want to start this week is last week we made kind of the joint observation about Royal Diaries as a whole that, you know, the challenging point is nothing really happens to them as like 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Everything except, you know, Anastasia, of course.
Well, I have thoughts about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But another kind of overarching observation that I have about the series that I want to share is that I felt this way as a kid and I feel this way now. I felt that if you are a child, you already have to be into reading to want to read these and enjoy these books. Whereas I feel Dear America could have turned kids into readers. And I think there's a place for both, and maybe you disagree with me, but that is always the impression I've always had about this series.
I think that tracks. That makes sense. I've never thought of it that way before, but I don't know anyone who read these first.
It's very much like these are good and enjoyable books if you like to read. They're not Dear America. There's just, and they go hand in hand. Like Dear America can do so much more because they're not based on real people, so they can make them have more interesting young lives. Mm-hmm. So. That's just my kind of, and that's kind of the thoughts I'm going to be, you know, all of my thoughts are kind of going to relate to that.
I do think overall as a series, Dear America, they're more enjoyable to read and I think more successful in what they set out to do.
Yes.
Not that I don't like these, because obviously I do, but I do think I think you're right. I think you might be right.
Okay, well, I don't know where you wanted to start, but that's what I wanted to open with.
Well, I have, let's talk about the selection of the time period, because that's our big thing that it hinges on. I think we have a gradation here. I think Marie Antoinette, this is an excellent time, like part of her life to write about.
Yes.
I felt like they selected it perfectly.
Because it was before things got real dark for her.
Yeah. And it was...
But things are still happening to her.
You got a snapshot. I would say maybe 60-70% of the book takes place when she is still in Austria and she's being prepared to marry the king or the grandson of the King of France at the time. And the preparation to become French and shed her Austrian self, which then she does. And then it shows her adapting to life at Versailles and making friends with her husband. And then kind of the ending of the book is her first solution of a political conflict. Mm-hmm. And it shows her being like, I was a girl in Austria and now I'm a woman in France. And I think that's a great time period. We'll elaborate a little bit more on it when we talk about the plot of that book.
Yes.
Cleopatra, again, I thought was great in the beginning. And I think towards the end, it kind of lost steam. We lost a lot of detail about what was happening. And I think that's due to historical record.
Yes. And that I'm getting into the historical accuracy for sure.
Yeah.
And the author even says this. There's just not much information about her early life. And I think it does lose steam because what we do know, you know, the exile when her sister took over, blah, 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 all of that was real. And then even like, it's not really known to history when she even met Mark Antony. Like, yeah. So all of this is just kind of.
And I'm sure the author doesn't want to use too much conjecture, but you have to. So that the back half of that book was not as interesting as the front half.
Absolutely.
And then you have Anastasia. And Anastasia for Royal Diaries, I think is like the easiest one to do because little girls love her already. Mm-hmm. They've probably seen the animated movie. They know who she is. And everything interesting that happened to her when she was 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, because that's when she was killed.
Because then she died. Yeah. Yes. And I don't know if they thought 16 is too old. There aren't any other protagonists in Royal Diaries or Dear America that are already 16. Uh-huh. But Carolyn Meyer whiffed it so bad.
Yeah.
This Anastasia is like Eleanor of Aquitaine. Nothing happens for most of it. It's so boring.
And it just like so many years pass.
The timing is crazy. I didn't even realize until Anastasia has 2 birthdays, and I didn't realize it until the second one, how for the whole first half time is crawling and then it speeds by.
Yeah.
And even when things start to happen to them and the family is taken into like arrest and custody, you don't even really know why. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this is like the easiest win and it turned out bad, I just don't know why it started when Anastasia was so young. Because it did such a disservice to the rest of the book.
No. Yeah, it was not as good. And maybe we just start with Anastasia.
Yeah.
Talk about. This one was. Actually, can we go back and start with Cleopatra? Because there's a point I'm going to make about Cleopatra
and that
I need to juxtapose. Yeah.
Great.
So let's start with Cleopatra. Assassination attempts in this were crazy. Her sister took out a hit on her. Nasty work.
Yeah. And it did not feel inappropriate for kids to read.
No.
It was interesting. But yeah, she was just running around like scared for her life. It opened, much like Jahanara did, it opened on an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Where there was a snake someone put in her father's bed to kill him.
No, and I remember that from childhood. I was like, oh shit. I think she has the best emotional journey.
I think so too.
Because what's happening is that as they're going to meet with the Romans, you know, all of this, she is seeing her father for what he is, because she used to like glorify her father, and then she's kind of realizing that the world just sees him as a drunk who can't really rule, and he's just kind of a joke, and she's just becoming more and more disillusioned with her father, and it's something she's really struggling with it, and I think that's illustrated really well
because she's dealing with it both as someone who wants to rule Egypt and is being presented as being very capable of doing so.
Yes.
But also as a daughter who's realizing her father is completely useless.
Exactly.
And losing respect for him and love for him in that way.
So she has to try and balance that. And at the same time, when her sisters are like trying to kill her constantly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
She's got a crazy family life going on.
Yeah.
But I also think she is the most realistic in terms of what her future is, because everyone we've read about, like, they're gonna be a person of influence in the government, the royal family, whatever you may have. But I think she is the most realistic of being portrayed as knowing that as a young age and preparing herself for that.
Mm-hmm. And she's also, especially compared to Anastasia and Marie Antoinette, she is the only one that's going to wield actual political power.
Yes.
Anastasia, you never get the sense that she really is going to have it. And as the fourth of 4 daughters, she probably wouldn't.
No.
But even Marie Antoinette, the most that she can do is influence the way that people address her, the king's mistress in Versailles. She's not setting policy or anything like that. But Cleopatra has an understanding of what her role can be and also how hard it's going to be to get there. Mm-hmm. Because she is the 3rd daughter, she has to climb over her brothers and her 2 older sisters. But in this Egyptian society, you know that that's possible.
Yes. So I thought she was really great. Again, I like you said, the back half of the book is just kind of blurry. I don't even really remember the massive points in it.
Well, she and her father have to flee Egypt to Rome because there are attempts on their lives. Mm-hmm. And they're asking the Romans for help. And that's where we meet Mark Antony, which is kind of the only big thing that happens over there.
Yeah.
And they get the allyship of some of the Romans to bring an army back to overthrow the sister that's taken over.
What stands out to me the most about this book was just her characterization.
Exactly. She's leading it all, especially in the back half of the book when they're mostly just in Rome and you're getting like snippets of Roman culture, but not really a lot of political machination or character interactions.
Yeah.
I also appreciated how in this book, the forefront of it is the political situation. And kind of in the background is all of the set dressing of this is what life is like if you were in Egypt during Cleopatra's time. Because in most of these books, it's the other way around. Like that took a big forefront in Eleanor of Aquitaine. It took a big forefront in Jehanara, all of that stuff. So I appreciate how much the political history was forefronted in this book. And it was still done in a way that I think children would think would be interesting.
Oh, especially like kids who are into Egypt. Egypt's one of those things, like if you were into it as a kid, you were into Egypt.
Definitely.
So I didn't think the plot was super strong, but I thought the characters were very strong. And the characters primarily being Cleopatra. Like I don't need the other ones to be as strong as her.
I did like the evil sister because she was so evil.
Oh my god, she was like it was like comic book evil, and then in real life she just like was also evil. So it's not
like Anne Boleyn.
Yes,
from the other Boleyn.
Exactly.
Girl. Cleopatra was. I think they stretched a little bit just how self-possessed she would be as a 12-year-old.
Yeah, like she's still a child.
However, that's fine with me. It's okay.
I was fine with it.
Like know all this stuff about having to escape assassination and being like capable of being queens. Like you are 12. However, not a huge deal. Yeah. Not a deal breaker for me.
No. So getting into Anastasia, I did feel like I really enjoyed like reading about her with her sisters. They would like put on plays and shit. She was like the realest girl.
Definitely. She was the most realistic and she was the least tied into the whatever the political situation was.
So this girl, no idea what's going on. Anyway, if Cleopatra was super interested in learning about her people, learning what's going on, Anastasia could not give two shits what's happening in the countryside of Russia.
No.
And I don't know if it was like that in real life.
Her life was so insular as being presented in this book. And I think that has some truth in it. I think that she had her family and that's who she saw. But if I had never heard of Anastasia and I read this book, I would not know what the political situation was that was happening.
And what's very interesting is that juxtaposing Cleopatra, who was very critical of her father and how he was handling political situations, this book was just glorifying the Romanovs. And even in the historical note, it painted the Russian Revolution as being entirely a result of Rasputin. Which Rasputin obviously discredited the Tsar, like, because no one trusted him. So, like, he was a symbol for a lot of why it was happening.
But it was, like, a teeny part.
But it was, like, the Russian Revolution would not have only happened if the only thing they did wrong was have a bad advisor.
Yeah.
Like, it had built for centuries.
Yeah. I mean, it's because people were dying and starving.
Yeah. So I think this has a very interesting tone for if the broader Royal Diaries series is not afraid to, like, back away from, being critical of those in power, this one very sharply was not. And again, I wonder if part of it is because, like, when it came out, like, 90s, early 2000s, people were still talking very sensitively about stuff with Russia. I don't know. It was weird.
It's an interesting perspective. I think that it would have taken a really skilled author, but I do think it is possible because from Anastasia's point of view, Tsar Nicholas is an interesting character to write about because he was like a horrible ruler, terrible person, but he was a really good father.
Yes.
And the historical record like reflects and agrees like he loved his children and he loved his daughters more than most men did at the time, all of that. But he's opaque. You're not seeing through that veneer to the terrible ruler that he is.
Yeah.
For example, he doesn't abdicate until page 144.
And this is probably like crazy. 180 pages-ish in this book.
Which is insane. Which, first of all, that should have happened on page like 10.
Yeah.
But then also, you don't know why. You just really don't. Even I, like, who know the details of the Russian Revolution, am like, wait a minute.
It all comes out of nowhere. And it's kind of like, so with Uprising, I talked about how it felt like the fire came out of nowhere, but that was a good thing because that felt realistic to what was happening.
Yeah.
No. It seems like this should not have been something that was so out of the blue.
No, literally on one page, there's a quote where Anastasia point blank says, and I highlighted this, I want something exciting to happen. And I just said, girl, me too.
Literally.
I also want something exciting
so much of this life, or so much of this book and her life in this book is just like her day-to-day playing with her sisters, celebrating Butter Week, which is a week where they just eat butter.
We should have that.
I want to celebrate Butter Week personally. I do love that they had the ballerina music box. Okay, Anastasia, the animated film.
Exactly.
But yeah, the pacing was so off in this book that I couldn't even appreciate the things that I thought were done well, which is, how realistic she felt as a girl, that sort of stuff.
Here's the other crazy thing that I want to highlight. We said, like, interesting how it would be interesting to know how much the time period in which this book was written influenced the content of it. If you read the historical note, the author's note, when this book came out, they hadn't found Anastasia yet. Like, her body. They hadn't found her. Because if you remember,
they just found out bones were missing.
Well, if you remember, they had,
or it could have even been before that.
4 members of the royal family were found together, and then 2 decades later, 2 of them were found separately, and it was Alexei, and I think people still don't know if it was Anastasia or Maria.
Yeah.
But when they found the Tsar, the Tsarina, and 2 of the daughters, or 3 of the 3 older daughters, they were like, oh my God, Anastasia's not here. It could be true that she escaped.
Yeah.
But, like, at this point in time, they hadn't found Anastasia.
Yeah.
So that is crazy to me. So maybe that's why they didn't go all the way up till the end. Although I think it would be fair not to have her execution be part of the book anyway.
Yeah,
like they did with Anastasia and Marie Antoinette. I think you should leave that out.
Ending it a little before that.
Yeah.
But also, like, Anastasia, at least there was, like, a high to end on for the book. I don't think there was a high to end on here.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think so.
I do think that was it. Because pretty much after he abdicated, things just went downhill fast.
Yeah, or even, I don't know, if the end could be them being taken to Ekaterinburg, which is the last place that they ever went to, or, like, something. There was no...
It didn't feel conclusive.
It just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
So, but let's go to Marie Antoinette, which I already said I think it had great pacing and a good ending point.
And she was a much more complex character than Anastasia. Her biggest battle was concerning privacy.
Yes.
And basically, like, the biggest difference between the French and the Austrian is that she would never be alone, ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people would come to watch her bathe. People would watch her give birth. People would watch her dress. Like, every single moment of her life.
And Marie Antoinette, in real life and in this book, the portrayal of it was really good, her role is to be a pawn.
Yeah.
She is not supposed to do anything other than go to France, have babies, and be Austrian.
Yeah.
And that's it. And in this book, she goes on a journey of realizing what power she's capable of taking. She influences her husband to help her get private rooms so she doesn't have to be around people all the time.
Her husband who sucks.
Yeah, her husband who sucks. But who, like, slowly starts to open up to her and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So she is taking her small amounts of power where she can.
Yeah.
Which is empowering to read about, but also not really pronounced in a way that might feel hokey. Like, if there had been a book about Marie Antoinette where she's like, I will rule as a good queen of France or whatever, it wouldn't feel real because that's not who Marie Antoinette was.
No, she is a complicated individual, but also was very showy, was very extravagant. And this felt authentic to that to me.
Yeah.
It also felt authentic. Like, this poor girl was so homesick. Like, just so brutally homesick. And, like, you could tell, and it was written very well.
Yeah. Like, when she went to France from Austria, she had to leave behind her sister. She was grieving the death of another younger sister.
Yeah.
They didn't even want her to take her dog with her because the dog was Austrian and she had to become French. It was a big leap.
I will say she was a very funny narrator, though. Mm-hmm. And even with all of that in her, and she was a complex character, and even with all of that, she was very funny. She would write about her New Year's resolutions, and one of which were to gamble more, but it's actually really sad because she did develop a gambling addiction.
Womp womp.
And then at one point she just writes, my fat, dead, awful sister-in-law, and then you never really get anything more about that, and I don't think we really need to get more about that. But it was
funny.
It was funny.
Well, also, I think something handled very interestingly, Marie Antoinette is a bit of a different protagonist than some of our other ones because she's not like a spunky, like politically motivated.
No.
Like Marie Antoinette is not historically known as being a very smart person.
No.
And that is incorporated well into this book without making you think like, oh, she's just an idiot.
Yeah.
But like she's given the diary as a way to practice her spelling because her tutor says it is poor and things like that. She is smart in her own areas. And those ways are different than I feel like kind of the stock Royal Diaries protagonist.
I agree. I thought it was a little bit of a weird place to end the book personally. Like, I agree with you that it was nice to see, like, it was her first, like, navigating a political situation. Mm-hmm. But I still just thought it was, like, I don't know. It was a little bit of a weird ending for me.
I guess so. Because in the grand scheme of things, her conflict with Madame du Barry, who is the king's mistress, is not the most historically significant thing, obviously, that Marie Antoinette ever did.
Yeah.
But I felt like it worked because it showed her coming into her own at Versailles.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. My other thing that I wanted to say that I thought almost comparing to Anastasia again.
Okay.
Where it was a good portrait, or it was an interesting but not super three-dimensional portrait of Tsar Nicholas. I really liked the representation of Maria Theresa.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah, who is in most of the book because she's the one overseeing Marie Antoinette's transformation from Maria Antonia into Marie Antoinette. And Maria Theresa is not a historical figure that children are just going to know about. No. They'll know Anastasia, they'll know Marie Antoinette. They're not going to know about Maria Theresa, Empress of Austria. And this is a great introduction to that insanely powerful woman.
Yeah.
Like a very important historical figure. So I think the way that also she was a bit more of a ruler than she was a mother. Like she had a daughter who died. And she said, well, like children it's great if they make it to 12, but if they die before that, you just have to be like, you can have more.
Which, like, for the time period, okay, I guess, it's true.
And then Marie Antoinette was grappling with, like, how horrible that is to say and how cold that is. And then she realized, like, my mother has, like, 12 children or something. Like, she has a lot of children. And she's like, I guess that's how you have to think about it if you've been pregnant that many
And because
times.
She's lost children.
And she's lost a lot of children.
Yeah, I think Marie Antoinette was probably, her and Cleopatra were both very strong characters.
Yeah.
I would say
And very different.
Of all of the Royal Diaries, I would say them and Anaconda are the strongest.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this one.
Me too.
I did.
I don't think any of these are, actually, Anastasia might be a flop. Sorry, Anastasia. Cleopatra and Marie Antoinette, I really enjoyed. And actually, I raised my original rating that I gave to Cleopatra.
Oh.
Because I think the first time I read it, I was expecting more at the end. So I looked back on the book negatively, but the beginning is so strong. Like, the first half is really strong.
Agreed.
So when I came back to it, I was like, oh, I was expecting something much worse. But actually, this is fun to read.
Should we get into the historical accuracy?
Yes, I think you will have some interesting things to say.
Oh, I honestly kept it pretty light for this week, but if you have anything to add, yeah. So Cleopatra, like we said, not a lot is actually known about her early life. And for all these books, I'm kind of focusing on the period that was in the books.
Yes, we're not going crazy.
Because I feel like I could really go in on like Cleopatra's entire life, but that's not the focus of the book, so.
Don't need to.
So not much is actually known, including when she actually met Mark Antony, so this book kind of pulls from very limited information. However, I think they constructed a realistic picture of what her life would have looked like. She did truly learn a lot of languages. She was very well educated, so the fact that she was able to converse easily with multiple groups, very realistic, even at her young age.
Good for her.
Her and her father were her and her father were exiled while her sister, is it Bernice or Berenice?
I don't know.
I'm going to say Bernice, and I think it's wrong, but it's okay. Her sister Bernice claimed the throne. And then, of course, they went to Rome, all of that. They started those allyships. And then when she died, her death officially marked the beginning of Roman rule in Egypt.
Wah, wah.
Which is kind of interesting because in the book, that was particularly interesting to me because in the book, you see how she's actively working to strengthen these allyships.
And then it works against her.
Yeah, it eventually does work against her. Anastasia. So I looked this up because at the end, there are 2 dogs in the book. Okay. Jimmy and Joy, and I forget, one was Alexi's, one was hers, and I forget which is which. Jimmy was killed when they were all executed.
Oh.
However, Joy survived and wound up living a very, very happy life.
Okay.
And I believe...
Why would they shoot the dog?
I don't know. Horrible. I believe I read Joy might have gone to, like, England or something. I don't remember that. I could be making that up.
Fine.
But Joy lived a very happy and long doggy life after, so that's great. So there was the rumor that she was alive. In the 90s when they found bones, as you already said, there were bones missing. So that did start speculation, along with, previous people who had pretended to be Anastasia in the past.
Can I say something interesting about that?
Yes.
So the most famous Anastasia pretender was this woman named Anna Anderson.
Yes.
And she ended up living and dying in Charlottesville. So her grave, which does say Princess Anastasia Romanova, is across the street from where my first year college dorm was.
Did you visit her grave?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's really weird. It's like, of all places, because she was from like Germany or something. Like, you ended up in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yeah.
But she married some guy who was like from there.
Okay. Wow.
So, fun fact.
Okay. Her being alive was ruled out by 2007 DNA tests. They tested the remains. They tested the bones that were found like farther away.
Oh.
And again, I think it wasn't certain still whether Anastasia was with the original group or with the two that were farther away, whether it was her or her sister.
Because the sisters were really close in age.
Very close in age. So then that's why like dating it had issues and all of that.
Not to step on your toes in your historical accuracy section, but I have one more fun fact.
Yes, of course.
They got the DNA from Prince Philip.
Yes!
Which is crazy.
Yeah. That is true. I forgot about that.
Like, imagine being so related to Queen Victoria that when they find the Romanovs, they call you and they're like, we need some like blood or spit from you or whatever.
That's crazy. And I'm sure as like royalty, you get a bunch of crazy phone calls, but I imagine that would have been probably one of the craziest.
Yeah.
So Rasputin, of course, did not cause the Russian Revolution, but he did increase trust in the Tsar because he was just a really bad advisor. And he did sort of symbolize everything wrong with the government. And then by the time he was assassinated, like it was too late to undo any of that distrust, which was, again, not what caused the Russian Revolution, but was a factor in the tipping point of when it happened.
Mm-hmm. So he was just fanning the flames.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Russia was already really bad off. Like something was coming and then.
Yeah.
Marie Antoinette. So she was the 15th of 16 children, which I'm sure was mentioned in the book. And I didn't clock that number, but that's kind of crazy.
I know. Poor thing.
She was pledged to marry the future king of France following the 7 Years' War in order to solidify the shaky Austria-France alliance, which is why it's so like touch and go at the beginning of the book about if they're going to get engaged or not.
Yeah, because she keeps being like, oh no, I like went out riding in the mud and now the French ambassadors are here and they're going to disapprove of me.
Exactly. She was really, really homesick when she moved to France. I saw something when I was doing research that was like, she wrote to her mother, she's like, and of course in more nicer language than this because it was the 1700s, basically like I cry every single time I get a letter from you, like,
oh,
so it's really sad. And you really think about just how young she was when she was forced into all of this. And of course she made not great decisions later in life, but she was still a child at this point. Yeah, King Louis, lame. He was really shy and he would like go to bed early and get up super early, and she would like stay out all night and get up at noon. So they were just like not compatible.
They didn't see each other that much.
No. And apparently she had like written to her mother, and her mother sent her brother to come and be a marriage counselor because 7 years into their marriage, they had not consummated the marriage.
He was just like, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Which is kind of crazy.
When you have a hot, popular wife.
And also, it's like you're supposed to be having kids.
Yeah.
Like, and that comes with the job expectation, you know?
I get it for the first year or two, because when they got married, they were both like 14 or something.
7 years.
But
at this
after
time
a little
period,
bit, you got to start working on
like,
it.
that's kind of crazy. But also, like, sending your brother having to come and, like, talk to y'all.
Yeah, I would prefer someone else.
Yeah, I would prefer not that to happen to me. Okay, well, I kept it really short for the historical accuracy.
And for these books, I think you really can't get too much into the weeds.
No, because everything else I would just have to give I'm sorry, what else was Anastasia really doing? Like,
she herself, I hate to say it, didn't do much.
No.
She was, and listen, I'm not saying that if I was in her position, I would have done anything other than be rich and have a good time. That's all I would have done.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But I'm just saying she didn't do that much.
Okay. Star calculator time?
Star calculator time.
For the last time of using our amended star categories, of historical accuracy, theme, characters, stories, and vibes. We're going to be breaking each of these books out individually like we did last week and like we did for Dear America, since it's so hard to judge this series as a collective.
Yes, as we said, specifically because there are different authors, so it's hard to hold them to the same standards, unlike Josefina or Magic Tree House.
Yes. And speaking of Magic Tree House, Mary Pope Osborne, new friend of the pod.
Hi, Queen.
Tweeted us. Of pod authors who are friends of the pods, I believe we're up to Mary Pope Osborne, Ruta Sepetty's best friend of the pod.
Oh, yeah.
Minjin Lee, also best friend of the pod.
Yep.
And Lisa C. I think are 4?
I think so.
No, author of Lessons in Chemistry commented on us.
Bonnie Garmus.
She commented on us one time.
Well, and also, I do think if we went back and looked at all the authors that we've done for the pod, I think more of them are women than not. However, that list is all women. So
it's true.
Go girl power.
Women supporting women. And also, we've tried to stay away from tagging authors who we give flop reviews to.
Yes.
We were bad about that, and that's on me, and I should have been better about that in social media, because it's like not great, but of me to have done that. But moving forward, we will definitely not be tagging.
Yeah. Well, and also not to bring the mood down, but the male authors that we have done, some of them are not with us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, more of the male authors, I would say.
Some of the flops.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also I think more of male authors have flops on the pod.
Now that is a statement that I will not apologize for.
No. Colson Whitehead, thank you for representing
Colson Whitehead, we appreciate you so much. Congratulations on your 2 Pulitzer Prizes.
Yeah, right. Well deserved, even though I was simply not in the state of mind to read The Underground Railroad, but not your fault.
Well, I also appreciate that separately because it was a trivia question that we did get right one time.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's actually do the star calculator now.
Yes, like we said we were going to.
Let's start with Cleopatra. I already have my numbers in. So
you go.
Historical accuracy, I gave it a 3. First half is good, but there's also just so little she could actually pull from. But I do think she did a nice job with what she could work with. Theme, I gave it a 3. I was kind of, actually, you know what? I'm going to give it a 4. Why not? Because I thought it showed her looking towards the future of, like, her career and her politics very well.
Yeah, why not?
Characters gave it a 5. Cleopatra, great character. Really enjoyed reading about her. Story, I gave it a 2. It really fell off towards me. There was parts I just, like, didn't care anymore. And vibes, 4. Why not?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And all of that is a 3.6, and I had given this... Oh, I only gave this a 3? I gotta amend that. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 on Storygraph, actually.
See, that's exactly... when I went to go mark it as read, I had given it a 3.25 previously, and I was like, that's too low. That's too
Half
low.
the time when I go back and look at my ratings of books that I, like, just read for the pod, now that I've talked about it, I'm like, I don't agree with this anymore. So.
It's sometimes hard if you rate a book right after you finished it. Sometimes you need to let it sit.
Yes.
You need to mull it over. And what are we doing if not mulling it over here? All right. So for me, historical accuracy, 3. It's not the fault of the author, but I think when you have just so little to go on, I can't give it higher than that. Like, I don't think what is there is incorrect, but there is not a ton of it.
Yeah.
Theme, 3. Because other than Cleopatra wanting to be Queen of Egypt, there's not a ton in terms of theme. I did appreciate what was there about her relationship with her father, but that I think almost falls under characters more.
Real fast, could you repeat your historical accuracy?
3.
Okay, I'm just filling it in on the spreadsheet.
Thank you. Characters, 4. The Romans were pretty sketched in, and I didn't love any of them. Even Mark Antony, who got like the most forefronted position. Yeah. However, all of Cleopatra's family and her couple of friends were really great. So I appreciated that. I especially liked her evil sister. So big fan. Story, 3, because it came out really good and raring to go in the beginning, and it petered out towards the end, so it kind of averages out to like a 3. And vibes, 4.
All
right. For us, this is the tone of voice where we use when we're talking about 4 or talking about vibes. We're like, whatever. So what is that?
3.4.
3.4. I think I bumped it up to a 4.
Oh, okay.
So that might be a little high.
So we're both sitting around fine.
But yeah, this is a fine, but it's not a terrible fine. It's a pretty good fine.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
Anastasia. So I have mine in again if you want me to. Yeah, I can just go first in all of these if you'd like me to.
Yes, I would love that.
Historical accuracy, I gave it a 4. Like, nothing was wrong. Even, like, from Deja's perspective, I could see how Rasputin would be the cause of everything, because she's like, I don't like this guy, he's really slimy and he doesn't shower. So I could see that. However, that held me back, because I was like, well, like, if Cleopatra and Marie Antoinette could explore more of the politics, like, we can be exploring a bit more.
Yeah.
Theme, I gave it a 2. Characters, I gave it a 2. Story, I gave it a 2. Vibes, I gave it a 4 because of nostalgia. So that's a 2.8. I'm gonna give it a fine. I'll give it a fine. I gave this one a 3 on Storygraph. I think the nostalgia is kind of pulling a lot of weight there.
I think so too. That's what I did for Eleanor of Aquitaine.
Yes.
So for this historical accuracy, I'm giving it a 2.
Oh.
I just think the willful ignorance of like everything that happened is annoying.
It is, but the only excuse I'll make for that is that I genuinely think someone in Anastasia's position would have not known anything of what's happening.
I think that is true. However, I think there are ways that the author can work with that. So it annoyed me, so I'm giving it a 2.
Okay, that's fair. I'm still going to keep my 4, but I understand where you're coming from.
Or even at the point where he abdicated, like, she would probably be like, why is that happening? Yeah, I don't know. Theme 3... I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
It's the last episode of the season.
Yeah. It just is. It's mid. It's whatever. Characters 4, because I actually did really like all the family members.
Okay.
And they were interesting. I just don't think anything interesting was done with them.
Yeah.
I do think the sisters were differentiated pretty well.
I think so.
And then the parents and her brother, I thought it was good. Story 2, because there was none. Vibes 2, because it just pisses me off that this could be really good and it's not.
Yeah. So that's a 2.6 for you.
That's a 2.6. I gave it a 3 on Storygraph. I might say this is my first fine-leaning flop.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a high flop and a low fine. I'm very disappointed by this one. And even though nostalgically I did read this one as a child, I am not happy with it.
Marie Antoinette, let me get some numbers down real fast. So I'm going to give it a 5 for historical accuracy. I thought the author had the most to work with here and did a good job with it all. And I thought they captured the essence of like who she was and who she would have been as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Really well. Theme, I gave it a 4. She's learning, she's getting involved in politics and how to use, like, she might not be smart, but here's what she can do. Characters 5, story 4, vibes 4, and that is 4.4. And I would say that's fine, leaning 5 for me.
For me, historical accuracy 4, I think it's really good. Not a lot of problems. Theme 4, I do like how there was a through line in this book. There was a character evolution, and that I think is not true necessarily of all of the Royal Diaries books. Yeah. So when it's here, I appreciate it. Characters 4, I think the big main characters were really good. I liked Marie Antoinette. I liked Maria Theresa. I liked, weirdly, the daughters of Louis XV.
Yeah, I liked them.
Who were also not people that I knew existed, to be honest. So sorry to them. But I liked all of them. I think some of the side characters did not capture my attention as much. Yeah. So that's what I'm docking that point for. Story 5. I already said I'm a huge fan of the way that the story was constructed and paced. So I have no problems there. I think this is the best in terms of that quality of the Royal Diaries books.
Okay.
And vibes 4. So that is over a 4, I'm sure.
That's a 4.2.
That is a 4.2, and I gave this a 4 on Storygraph. So I would say, I would probably call this a solid fine-leaning 5.
Yeah.
So this one is my favorite of the 3 that we just read. And then Cleopatra, and then Anastasia.
Okay, that's fair. I would say the same. This is also your second highest Royal Diaries. Anaconia, you gave a 4.4.
Okay, noted.
And then Marie Antoinette was my highest, followed by Jahanara.
Okay.
So interesting. We have some diversity of opinion there, which is always fun.
Always good. We said our opinions in books are often different. And that is a good thing.
And now I think we're here to get into just how different they are this season. Okay.
This episode is going to be so long. I hope you have a really long drive or commute or something, listeners, that you were listening to this on.
So if we rank them the same, you did Dear America as separate books.
So we read 40 books this season. However, we're not going to rank Josefina or Magic Tree House separately. So because of that, we are going to read off our rankings for the season like we normally do. However, there are going to be 28 entries on that list.
Yes.
It will be quite lengthy. However, we're not going to not do it just because it'll take a while.
Of course. So if you don't care about us, if you don't love us, you can skip this section. But personally, this is my favorite part of the entire season. So.
It's fun because this is where we, like we said, we respect each other, but this is where we do get a little heated sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all in good fun.
So how do we want to do that? Like, what's an easily divisible number to break this up in?
Normally we do it by 3s. Honestly, for this season, I have 4 flops.
Okay, see, I didn't fully break it into flops.
I didn't either, but just looking at my list, I'm like, these are the flops. Okay, and then the bulk of them are fines, and then I have a couple of 5s. So how many flops do you have looking at the bottom of your list?
I would say probably 4 is fair.
Okay, so let's do the flops, and then we can do the fines in groups of 3 alternating until we get to the top, and then we can do our 5s. Okay. So number 28 is My Heart Is on the Ground, The Racist Dear America.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible in almost every respect.
Yes.
Even the writing was only like passable.
Yes.
So no, bad. Other than that, this would have probably been the worst book. Number 27, Distant Waves. It was so funny, but not good.
It was funny because it was horrible.
It was not supposed to be funny. Number 26, Seven Little Australians. I thought it would be like quirky cute, but actually all the characters were really bad.
And poor the girl who died.
And I hate to say it, number 25, So Far From Home, The Irish Mill Girl, Dear America.
Okay, just say you hate my culture and go.
I do hate your culture. So those are my 4 flops.
Well, some similarity, some distance. I actually tied My Heart Is on the Ground and Distant Waves because I thought they were both so atrocious in 2 different ways.
They're very different in their badness.
For different reasons, and I feel like if My Heart Is on the Ground was not one of the ones we included, like Distant Waves would be uncontested, so I feel like I do have to tie them because they were both so bad. My Heart Is on the Ground is just so atrociously racist and so horrible. And then Distant Waves is just like such an affront to writing that I also cannot like
you're very much taking the stance of these should not be books that you give to children.
No, these should not be books that are read. I feel like Distant Waves should be an episode of Doctor Who personally, because that would actually be
that would be hilarious. Okay,
but
continue.
Yeah, so I think both those are terrible. So then I had them tied. So like I don't know, 28. My Heart's on the Ground, 27 Distant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
26 is Johnny Tremaine.
You were anti-Johnny Tremaine.
I hated Johnny Tremaine. However, I really want to go on the walking trail. So,
we love history.
Johnny Tremaine nothing happened. And also there was just like the time period of it being the American Revolution and the distinct lack of acknowledging that any Black people existed.
That was pretty glaring.
Yeah. That bothered me. But again, that was also written in the 1940s. So I don't think the book would be written the same if it was written today.
No, probably not.
But, it's still not an enjoyable book. I was bored. At 25 is Catherine Called Birdie. That was my other flop. I was just so bored with that. And at least Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was also really boring, at least I liked her as a character.
She had a little personality. Okay, well here, going up now into my fines. And there's a wide variety in terms of how much I enjoyed the fines.
Yeah, my placement, I did the best I could, but some of it is just like, I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, then, like, kind of similar to you, I have number 24, Johnny Tremaine. Number 23, Jahanara, which is lower than I thought it would be.
Oh, interesting.
And 22, Catherine Called Birdie. Johnny Tremaine, I thought, actually had a pretty decent plot, but Johnny Tremaine himself was just so insufferable. And also, you're right that they were just like, there's no Black people. And she's like, of course there are. And then Jahanara and Catherine were kind of the same thing where I just wish that there was more happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
I thought that Catherine had a little bit more charm than Jahanara as a character, which I think edged her out over that. But neither of those 2 books, I didn't hate them, but they weren't my favorites either.
Yeah. My next 3, bottom up, Seven Little Australians, The Davenports, and So Far From Home, though it kills me. It's hard to not let the nostalgia win because I would love to make it the top of my list, but like an objective opinion shows it's not a good book.
It's hard to rate you almost want to have 2 separate lists where you're like, these are the books that are good and these are the books that are my favorite.
Oh, you mean how the other Berlin Girl would have been topping the other season because it was so fun to read?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, So Far From Home, it was just not, it averaged out to a fine because I just really like that time period. I really like that sort of stuff. 7 Little Australians, I did think the writing style was charming at times, and like how she wrote about she's like, kids are inherently problematic, and I just like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
However, way too much child abuse. So
the more that it went, the less charming it got. It was really charming in the beginning, and then it got old.
Agreed. And then the Davenports, I struggle with this one because I'm like, this author has so much potential, but I just don't think that this book was it. Yeah, I think this book needed more rounds of editing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, for me, my next 3 are 21, Number the Stars. Nothing wrong with it. I just think it's kind of boring. 20, Anastasia. It beats Number the Stars basically based on nostalgia factor.
Okay.
Because when I was a child, I did not like Number the Stars, and I did like Anastasia. And number 19, The Davenports. I agree with you. However, I will be sat for The Davenports Amazon series.
Oh God, I want it to be a television show so badly.
No, it will be an amazing TV show. It will be
phenomenal. And I think it's something that just, I don't know, Gilded Age, I feel really has to be like a visual thing
yes,
too, which is why the cover was amazing. 21, I had Anastasia. 20, I had Number the Stars for the opposite reason. I really loved Number the Stars as kids, so just a bit more nostalgic there.
There we go.
19, Eleanor of Aquitaine. It was just like a slightly better Catherine called Birdie.
We're so close together so far because my 18, Eleanor Crown Jewel of Aquitaine, that's kind of my So Far From Home. Like, it really shouldn't be that high, but I just loved it. 17, Cleopatra. 16, Across the Wide and Lonesome Prairie.
We are so close. Okay, 18, Across the Wide, Lonesome Prairie. Just like a little boring, but I still liked it. 17, Fever 1793.
Oh.
Because I thought it dragged a little long.
That's low. Okay.
16, I thought it was so much higher. And then when I was going through the list of what the books I really, really liked, I was like, oh wow, this is pretty low.
Okay.
16, Cleopatra. And I thought Cleopatra was a stronger protagonist than Maddie.
Okay. All right. Then next, 15, Josefina.
Okay.
That's kind of low. I do love Dear America. I do love American Girl.
Okay.
However, I just think it's hard to rank them that much higher when they're dealing not with a historical event, but with just the day-to-day life and a time and place. And also they're written for such a young child.
I do think we have a bias. Like, when I was making my list, I will say there's definitely a bias towards like a lot of the YA.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Josefina. I would happily gift it to a niece or something.
Would you have ranked it higher if we dined with her at the American Girl Doll Cafe instead of Samantha?
Probably.
Okay.
However,
interesting.
So no problems with Josefina. I think just because it's for younger children and not even like middle grade, it's hard to go much higher because I think a lot of the other books that we read were really good.
Okay.
15, Josefina, 14, Anacaona, and 13, Marie Antoinette.
Wow. Okay, 15, Anacaona, 14, Survival in the Storm, 13, The Upstairs Room. And here's where I'm starting to transition to like, the mid of this list where I'm about to get into is like a little messy order. But I start to make the transition from fine to fine leaning fives around this area.
Or as normal people would say, good.
Yes. Anacaona, I really liked her. Our discussion helped me like narrow in my point of view and like that book. Realize I liked that book more than I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
Survival in the Storm, I liked it, but I think it's just probably because we also read The Four Winds that I'm like, oh, like not as interesting for me.
Yeah.
And then The Upstairs Room, like I really liked it. I don't know. It was good. I probably could have easily put it somewhere higher on this list, and I would still be happy with that ranking.
Yeah.
So
I've also gotten into books that I think are like solidly good.
Yeah.
So for me, almost same as you, 12, The Upstairs Room.
Okay.
I would give it to a child over Number the Stars.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Number the Stars. It's like a weird book to be a hater about, but I guess I just am. 11, Listening for Lions. I think it was really well written. The subject matter was like kind of weird, but that's okay. I still appreciated it for what it was. And 10, Fever 1793.
Wow, that's high for you.
Yeah,
okay.
I had never read it before, and I really liked it. I liked the protagonist. I liked her relationships with her family. And I felt for her in the journey that she was going on.
I feel around where I ranked Fever 1793, 17. That's around where I started liking everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I still really liked it. But 12 for me was Magic Tree House. 11 for me was Josefina.
Okay.
And then again, which I think is this is where the bias comes in of like, Flynn just fell off the couch behind Grace.
Flynn tried to attack me.
Brutal attack. She's going to break Grace's iPad screen now.
Please don't sit on my iPad.
So I think I do have a little bit of bias there just because they are for a younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled to rank it like a little bit higher. 10 would be Jahanara for me.
Ooh. So I'm actually just going to say my next two because books 1 through 7 are my 5s.
Oh, okay.
So, which is a lot for me, but I'm going out there.
Yeah.
So number 9 is Survival in the Storm. I just can't get over the delight of it being written by a girl who won a contest. It was so delightful to me. And I think it was well written too. And then number 8, Magic Tree House. I just thought they were so adorable and delightful. I had a great time reading them.
Okay, I'm going to get my new next twos as well because definitely my top 7 are 5s. And my 8, I don't remember if I said it was a 5 or if I'm leaning 5, but I'm fine either way.
It's close.
So 9 is Marie Antoinette.
Okay.
And then, which we just talked, 8 is Chains. And I gave it, I see on here, I gave it a 4.4. I do not remember which way I wound up going on it, but phenomenal book. So I'm going to after date this and give it a 5.
Yeah. My top 3 are the only ones that I actually gave a pure 5 to, but the next ones I think are so good and so important that I am happy to label them pod 5s.
Okay, so go ahead and do your next ones up until you save your top 3 for last. Okay. And I'll save my top 3 for last.
So then I'm doing the next 4.
Okay.
So 7, I Thought My Soul Would Rise and Fly. The Reconstruction, Dear America. I thought it was the best one by far. I think that's a fantastic book. I would definitely still give it to children. 6, Between Shades of Grey. Same thing. I think it's doing a lot of important work. The writing is really good. It's not just here because Ruta Sepetys listened to our episode, even though that does help. 5, Chains. I love Laurie Halse Anderson, and I think this is one of her best books. I think she does a delicate topic really well, and I appreciate that. And I don't know if this would be ranked any higher or lower if I read the other 2 books in the series. And then number 4, Uprising. My biggest nostalgia read, maybe in the running for biggest nostalgia read, but it really holds up and I think it does well, even on a topic that has been really covered.
I'm going to go through and do my next 4 now. I Thought My Soul Would Rise and Fly was also 7 for me. I think that was an excellent book and I really genuinely enjoyed reading it. 6 for me was Listening for Lions.
Ooh, that's pretty high.
It was very high. Like going back, it was one of the ones that like we did in the middle of the season that wasn't like a heavy hitter name. So I kind of forgot we read it, but I really liked it. I thought it dealt with a weird topic well. And I thought the premise of the story was just simply very interesting. And I think that's what I liked the most about it. Is that author still alive? Are you checking?
I am checking.
Gloria Whelan?
She's alive still.
Thank God. Our oldest pod.
So she's turned 100.
So congratulations to her and for making it pretty high on both of our lists. Right?
Yeah, good for her.
My next one is A Coal Miner's Bride. I thought it was really good. I hate that your nostalgia read won out over my nostalgia read.
Sorry.
I thought it was an interesting time period. Honestly, I probably would have really liked this as a kid if I wasn't a hater and didn't think the girl
about the gray, dirty cover.
Yeah, I didn't think it was ugly. So I did really enjoy it. And then 4th was Bud Not Buddy because I really liked it. And the audiobook experience was just phenomenal. So like plot-wise aside, everything else it had going for it aside, like that audiobook should win an award if it hasn't.
So we have one book that is both in our top 3.
Yeah.
That's so know that book is
I lost track of what your third one is. I know what 2 of yours are, but I lost count of what your third one is.
So for me, 3rd is A Coal Miner's Bride.
Mm-hmm.
I have reread that book so many times for it being for children and me being a completely grown woman. But I am just impressed by it every time.
Yeah.
I think it has way more content than all of the other Dear Americas. It's about an interesting time period. The characters are complex. It's the whole package and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is Bud Not Buddy. I read it in one day and I almost cried at the end. I stand by my stance that the best protagonist of any pod book, any season is Bud.
I do love Bud.
It's a fantastic book. And number 1 is Codename Verity.
Yeah, no shock.
Yeah, and for me, it's not close. The fact that it's YA does allow it to be more fleshed out than my other two in the top 3. And just the relationship between those two characters and the intricate plot twists, the intricate research, it was just so stunningly crafted. And I can't wait to read the other 3.
I know. I still have to read them. I still have to figure out where to access them, first of all.
I have one checked out from the library, so we need to discuss the order I'm reading because you can't read them in the same order.
We will figure that out. Oh, that could also be a bonus episode.
It could be a bonus episode. Okay.
So my top 3, coming in 3 was Uprising. And I think this was probably the book I was most shocked that I never read out. No, that's not true. It was one of the 2 books I was most shocked.
Wait, what was the other one?
Give me a second, Grace. Because I love the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, and I thought it was just a phenomenal book. The other book I was most shocked I had never read before was number 2, Codename Verity.
Okay.
Phenomenal book. I loved it. All of the top 3 made me cry. I cried at different points.
They're all fantastic, yeah.
And then my number 1 was Between Shades of Grey, and I love that, and I still have to go back and reread From Salt to the Sea because I really want to now. Plus, I want to read Ruta's other books because she is not only a bestie of the pod, she's a phenomenally talented author. We've had some amazing authors sticking to just this season, but also every season, and Ruta, I would rank her like among the top authors.
When I was sitting here thinking about what books you hadn't set on your list yet, and I was like, oh my God, are we both going to have the same number 1 book? That would be absolutely crazy.
It was close.
I knew. I was like, if your number 1 isn't Codename Verity, it's Between Shades of Grey.
Between Shades of Grey, and why it won out for me on the top book, because it was very close between these 2.
Okay, all phenomenal books.
Yes. It was nostalgia. It's because I had read this one before. And also because my PDF, a legal download of Codename Verity, was missing like 5 pages.
And you didn't have the red ink either.
And I didn't have the red ink. So I think I did miss out on some of those just like textual elements, which again is no fault of the book. It was just my reading experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would have added a little bit. Would it have been enough to outweigh Between Shades of Grey? I don't know.
So actually our lists are pretty similar. The only major differences, I think, are nostalgia related.
Yeah. This was our most similar
by
season,
far,
I think.
Wow. So in the end, kind of boring. So congrats to Ruta Sepetys and Elizabeth Ween on your top spots.
Fantastic, honestly. And also Margaret Peterson Haddix. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Margaret Peterson Haddix on Uprising, making, I think, your 4th one?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And but not by, honestly, all of kind of the top 8 that we all
Christopher Paul Curtis showing up after our discussion about the male pod authors saying, what about me?
Literally, yeah.
We said, you're right, we're wrong. We love you so much. This has been a crazy season.
It's been so much fun revisiting these books, though.
I've had a blast. I would do it again in a heartbeat. But man, it has been a long journey. 40 books.
It has been a long time coming. What I think has been great about this season is that it's kind of re-inspired me to go back and read like more YA, more children's books, like with Dear America, but also some, these Codename Verity ones, going back and read some of those. And just like, I think The Book Thief, though season 2 was our first example of that books can be truly incredible and can be those multi-audience books.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we had some more great examples this season.
Yeah. And it's just to show the importance of literature for young people. And you and I both care about that a lot. And we've shown here that, there are bad books that can take you places that you don't want your children to go.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely phenomenal books that can spark lifelong passions for reading and learning.
Exactly. And, sometimes you just have to let kids explore all of them. However,
figure it out on their own.
When I have kids, I do intend to withhold any books that I get the vibe or have read that are very racist, because those types of books, aka My Heart is on the Ground, are what we do not want to promote and what we do not want kids of the future reading.
Yeah. So, use the pod as a resource for what books to give your kids. Exactly. Is the lesson.
Exactly. So at this point, I believe we are about to announce our season 4 theme. However, we do not have a catchy title. Like, we've had Back to School, we've had Book Talk and Bestsellers, we've had Around the World. We have not come up with a catchy title yet.
Should we just give a hint then? I feel like in the past, sometimes we've left it to the bonus episodes, which are coming.
Yes.
To announce the
okay,
fun
I think that's
theme.
fair.
So we'll leave you a hint for season 4.
Okay. Do you have a hint prepared?
No.
Okay. Well, one good hint is that we are back to adult books.
Yes.
There might be some YA. I don't know. We're still finalizing our list.
We're leaving children's behind, unfortunately.
There might be 1 or 2 YA, potentially. We are still finalizing. The theme for the next season is something that is really, really important to both of us, and they are stories and voices that we want to be elevating and uplifting, especially at the current political climate.
Okay, and here's a really convoluted addition to the hint.
Yes.
One of the books that we read for a past season with one of our guest hosts would fit into this new season.
And another book that we did not have guest hosts on also would fit into this new season. And those are both from season 2. So if you would like to reevaluate all of our season 2 reads,
or maybe you need to re-listen to season 2 and give us some more streaming numbers.
Exactly. And also really nice reviews on Spotify.
Yeah, please.
But
someone is review bombing us.
As we work to come up with that fun, catchy season theme name, we will have 3/4 bonus episodes coming out in the coming weeks.
Yes, there will be a little bit of a wait. So sorry we won't be in your ears or on your speakers, but we'll be back.
We have to corral some friends for some viewing parties, I believe, for those.
I think you know what we're going to watch.
Yes,
if you've been paying attention.
I think it's pretty obvious. But in the meantime, to make sure you're up to date with what we are watching, what we are putting out as bonus episodes, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at @fiberflop_pod. You can still join our Storygraph reading challenge now that it's complete for season 3.
Yes, just because the season's over, the reading challenge will never go away. You could also join the reading challenges for seasons 1 and 2.
Actually, we encourage you to, frankly. And also keep an eye out. A season 4 reading challenge will be coming probably closer to the actual start of the season.
Yes. And once we have the bonus episodes out and we drop the theme for season 4, you can hit up the recommendation form in the bio of any of our social medias to tell us what you think we should be reading, or just books you think we should be reading in general that we can file away for a future season.
Absolutely. If you have anything you want to let us know about, chat with us about, give us more personal recommendations, viewing recommendations.
Yes.
You can go ahead and email us, fiberfloppodcast@gmail.com. And for the last time of season 3,
happy reading.
Bye.